You've got to get outside your typical thinking, add extra time, add creativity, add deliverability, add new ideas from outside resource. But you can change the terms of whatever it is you're dealing with, and that'll help you to create more of a win-win. And then really the key for win-win, in my opinion, is that you've got to practice it even in the small situations, in your day-to-day. Don't wait for some major negotiation situation in your business. Practice in your daily conversations, your daily rituals, your daily routines, that there's abundance and that you can have win-win relationship. Small win habits, when you find a way to create value and success without sacrifice, you're going to get better results. Let me give you some examples. Imagine you're negotiating with a client who wants a lower price, and your first reaction might be, welcome back to the Daily Mastermind. George Wright III with your daily dose of inspiration, motivation, and education. And I'm really excited to be here with you today. I think we have a lot of things that I want to talk with you about in order to get your week going. So I hope you had a great weekend. I hope you're ready to get some things rolling. And as I like to do on Mondays, I always want to talk a little bit about timeless principles, things to get your mindset. Because at the Daily Mastermind, I do this so that you can find a way to create clarity, focus, and discipline in your mindset. So it'll take you into the week. And then during the week, we'll have a couple of different interviews. In fact, we've got some great interviews with some thought leaders that are coming out. Wednesday, I'll usually do a solo episode with business. So do me a favor and follow the podcast so you don't miss any episodes. But I want to talk to you today a little bit about your mindset, but really more specifically about your identity, the way you see yourself. See, most people think life is a competition. And what I mean by that is that if someone else wins, then you must be losing. Or, if you prioritize success, then you sacrifice happiness. Or if you build your career, something else has to give. But what if all of that framework was wrong? Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about the prosperity pillar number 8, which is I think win-win. I always think win-win. You've heard me talk about this before, but this pillar is not about negotiating. It's not about tactics. It's not about, back in the day when I had all the seminars that we were doing and we had all of these different negotiating and sales tactics. It's not about that. It's not about compromise. It's not about being agreeable. We're talking about your paradigm. See, Wayne Dyer said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And that's exactly what a win-win attitude or thinking requires. It requires you to change the way that you look at life. And win-win is not a strategy. I like to look at it as it's an identity. It's the lens that you look through in order to evaluate your opportunities, solve problems. It's the way you interpret conflict. It's the belief system behind how you define success. And here's the truth. You can't create a win-win outcome if you're operating from a place of scarcity. You've heard me say that before. Scarcity says that there's not enough, that somebody has to lose. Scarcity says that if you succeed, someone else fails, or that you have to sacrifice your joy now in order to earn success later, or things like that, right? So an abundance mindset says that something is always there for you, that there's always a solution, that everyone can win, that you can have success and fulfillment, that you can build wealth and relationships, that you can grow your influence and stay grounded in your values. See, the foundation of win-win thinking is abundance. And you've got to believe that you can have both. If you don't believe that there's enough, then that's a scarcity mindset. And when you believe that there's enough growth, enough success, enough room, then that is when you're going to get some breakthroughs. And here's where entrepreneurs, at least in my opinion, struggle. We're conditioned to compete, and we're conditioned to protect, and we're conditioned to move fast and win at all costs. And business culture it often trains us to think transactionally, I guess is one way to put it, transactionally. And it's one of those things where, like, if I give, I lose leverage, or if I concede, I weaken my position, or if I don't push, then I'm going to fall behind. If I don't hustle and grind, I'm not going to get where I want to be. And when you add ego to the mix and fear of being taken advantage of and short-term thinking, all of a sudden, win-win feels naive. But win-win's not weakness. It's leadership. And when you have a win-win attitude, it's long-term thinking. It's reputation capital. It's relationship equity. See, leaders who think win-win build strong networks. Transactional thinkers, they build tension. So let me ask you a question. Do you believe that you can have both wealth and relationships? Do you believe that you can build, for example, authority and still remain humble? Do you believe you can grow your business and still protect your peace of mind? Or do you believe something always has to suffer? Believe in how you view the world and business. That is what's going to create your results, because your belief precedes results. And if you believe it's an either or situation, it's like I mentioned before, I kind of picked up a while back from Harv Eker. It's not either or, it's both. Because if you believe it's either or, then subconsciously you're going to create either or outcomes. And if you believe that it's both, then you are always going to be able to have opportunities and you're going to see solutions. And that's where the real shift happens. When and when you start to create this identity of abundance, it's when the shift happens. Because win-win requires discipline. It really does. It requires your emotional regulation. It requires patience. It requires confidence in your own value. And it requires you to have courage to be able to walk away from situations that are win-lose. So let me give you a practical framework to apply, in your life right now, and something that you can kind of use. First, I think what you have to do if you're experiencing this mindset where you feel it's transactional is you have to first stop being reactionary and having this scarcity mindset. Because when something feels competitive or threatening, don't react, just stop and ask yourself, is there another way that this can work, instead of feeling like something has to lose? And once you recognize that, then you could define what a real win looks like for both sides. See, sometimes we get so caught up in it that if you in your day-to-day life or in your business right now can just stop and be aware and catch when those mindset shifts come up, then you can really define what looks like a win-win for you, for your life, for your partners, for your relationships, your communication. Because most conflict comes from unclear definitions of what the success outcome is. And if you can stop and pay attention and be aware, you can really clarify the outcome that you want that is a win-win. And then it's really important at that point that you have to separate your ego from the outcome. See, so many people get caught up in the outcome that they lose sight of it in the process. In the process of being abundant and win-win, you have to separate yourself from the ego. So ask yourself honestly, is this that you're doing right now, is what you're doing on a day-to-day creating value, or is it about being right? You've got to find a way to separate your ego when you're looking for win-wins. And then, finally, you've got to expand your playing field. See, if the current terms that you're working with, the current opportunities, the current solutions feel like win-lose, you've got to change the variables. You've got to get outside your typical thinking, add extra time, add creativity, add deliverability, add new ideas from outside resource. But you can change the terms of whatever it is you're dealing with, and that'll help you to create more of a win-win. And then really the key for win-win, in my opinion, is that you've got to practice it even in the small situations, in your day-to-day. Don't wait for some major negotiation situation in your business. Practice in your daily conversations, your daily rituals, your daily routines, that there's abundance and that you can have win-win relationship. Small win habits, when you find a way to create value and success without sacrifice, you're going to get better results. Let me give you some examples. Imagine you're negotiating with a client who wants a lower price. And your first reaction might be defensive, like if I lower my price, I'm not going to make as much. That's all scarcity. But win-win thinking says, how do we both get what we want? Maybe you adjust the scope of the package that you're offering instead of the price. Or maybe you extend the length of the contract so you might be getting less, but for a longer period of time. Or maybe you bundle your service with something else. See, a lot of times you can give clients and customers what they want, but in the long run, lifetime value-wise, you get more. But you have to expand the circumstances. And so that's one example is if somebody's negotiating a deal with you, you can expand the concept or the circumstances, I guess you'd call it, of the deal you're working. And all of a sudden, they may be getting what they want in a price reduction, but overall, you're getting more value and more revenue and more profit. So this is how you create abundance. A lot of times when I've priced packages in the past, people want to get a better value or better price. But when you can give them that better price, but then expand the value and get longer term revenue, everybody wins. And so it's really about ways that you can find in your mindset and in your view and in your identity to be the person that brings the win-win situation. Because when you do both, and I promise you, you can have both. You can have success and happiness. You can have ambition and gratitude. You can have your drive, but still have peace of mind. But it's only if you believe that you can. Your belief is so important, and it's a decision as well. This is why I do the daily mastermind, so it can challenge your mental operating system. Because when I said at the beginning of this episode that it's about clarity, focus, and self discipline, it applies in so many areas. See, clarity means defining what you want in your life, focusing on how you can bring value in a very positive way, and then discipline to continue to practice that on the day to day. And win win thinking is no different. You've got to find a way to practice it and discipline your mind and discipline your thinking and see things from a win win attitude. Maybe it's in your business, maybe it's in your relationships, maybe it's in, just your wealth, but you've got to reframe the way you see the world sometimes in order to truly go to the next level and ask yourself, instead of choices, right? Either or, how can I do both? How can I do both? And, look for creative solutions, because when you always think win-win, you stop playing small. You start competing for a bigger slice of the pie. You start building bigger habits. And when you do that, your influence expands, your relationships grow, your revenue, your confidence, your opportunities. And then it's a cycle, right? Then your belief increases, and that increased belief helps you take more action, and so on and so forth. And so this is the concept that I wanted to talk to you about today. This is the thing that I want you to really try to do in your mind is, are you operating from a place of abundance? But more importantly, are you finding ways to create win-win, not just in negotiating, but in every aspect of your life? If you do that, I promise you, you'll have much more in your life overall. So that's my message for today. I'm gonna roll out a bunch of really, really cool free resources for you this week. And that's going to be all around authority and building your authority and your brand. And so I'd love for you to be able to check that out. So join me throughout this week. I'm going to really lay out some stuff that's going to give you some great value. I'm not selling anything on this podcast, but I do want to bring you value. And I would love it if you would hit me up on the Daily Mastermind on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. You can also email me at george@G3worldwide, because I'd love to hear from you. What can I do to help you? Take advantage of that opportunity when I throw it out, and let me know what I can do to help you build and grow your business, your mindset, the clarity and focus you have. Because if you get that mental operating system down, the rest is going to happen. When you create the inner world, you're going to create a much bigger, more robust, and more abundant outer world. So that's the message for today. Have an amazing day. This is George Wright III. This has been the Daily Mastermind. I'll talk with you more tomorrow.